Hey beautiful people, today I just want to show you a very rare opening that you will probably see for the first time. I believe nobody has covered this anywhere on YouTube. Well, speaking of big YouTube channels, so this is how you are going to be surprising your Sicilian opponents. And the beauty is this variation works in all time controls. And just a friendly reminder, all of my courses are still on promotion. Yes, you still get 50% discount on all of them. That is, you will get a discount of 50% when you purchase any of my courses. Right, so let's say you start with e4 and your opponent plays c5. I find the Sicilian defense to be boring, especially the Can Sicilian or the French Sicilian, because truth be told, there is no quickest way to punish this type of Sicilian if you think about it. At least the modern Sicilian, which features pawn to d6, can be easy to beat very quickly at times, especially if you play the Ginsburg variation where you sacrifice your pawn on e4. I mean, you already know the idea of sacrificing the bishop and go queen h5 check, so that after g6 you go queen d5 check and win back your knight. Now, the major problem is when it comes to the French Sicilian involving the move pawn to e6, or even the old Sicilian which involves knight c6. You see, when you play these common lines like pawn to d4, which are all fine, Black is well prepared to bore you to death by just being solid and punish you later in the middle game. They'll play moves like knight f6 or pawn to e5, e6 is the most solid one, and all that. And I should mention that the Sicilian defense is one of the most studied chess openings at the top level. Almost every line has been analyzed, and that leaves you with no option for novelties. That's why I thought it would be wise for me to show you this new variation that you can surprise your opponents with. It begins with the Keres variation where you put your knight on e2, but as you will see later on, we are not even interested to exchange this knight on d4 or to play pawn to d4 immediately. From here, the top played move is knight c6, after which I recommend that you surprise your opponent by playing this weird looking move knight f4. With knight f4, we are just provoking Black to play pawn to e5, honestly, kinda transposing the game back to the king's pawn game if you think about it. And this is what most of your opponents are going to do, even those who play the French Sicilian, because they think this is just a tempo lost. You see, moves like pawn to g5 are useless in these kinds of positions. For example, if Black plays pawn to g5 right away, you can simply go knight d5 or better knight h5 in this position. From the positional point of view, this is not a good start for Black. See, when somebody plays the Sicilian defense, what they are telling you indirectly is they are not interested to castle long because they have already opened up their queen side. This side of the board is already weak. They intend to start expanding on that side of the board later on in the middle game. So Sicilian players indirectly tell you that they want to open up the queen side and castle short. So if you can manage to provoke Black to play moves like this g5 move, then you have already won half the battle in the Sicilian defense. Same thing that we do even in the Keres attack. So pawn to g5 just looks ridiculous and it's kind of a misplacement. Where are they going to castle? I don't even know what Black should do. Maybe pawn to e6 now. But this is when you can play all sorts of things that you want. But if you ask me in this position, I would consider playing pawn to b4, kind of the wing gambit. Why? If cd happens, I have bishop b2 and there's e2 or nothing Black can do to stop me. If they play pawn to f6 or something similar, now I would play something like pawn to a3, bishop e2, or pawn to h4. h4 is a very committal move. If h6, I would definitely go with this plan of taking, since hg doesn't work due to knight f. And after knight f, I simply have rook takes, walking away with an exchange. Anyway, back to the initial position of the Keres variation. Note the difference. This is not the Keres attack. The Keres attack is where we play pawn to g4 somewhere on move number 4 or 5. But this is the Keres variation. Black usually plays knight c6. Again, you go knight f4, provoking e5. We saw how useless pawn to g5 can be. But say, what if Black plays pawn to e5, a more logical move? Now you reveal your plan of putting your knight on d5. The most common move in this position is knight f6. You have an option to get rid of that knight, which will be cool, or to simply play knight bc3, so that if knight takes happens, you take back with your other knight. This is considered to be a great outpost for your queen's knight. There is no pawn that can attack this knight, even if they play d6. But I don't really love this idea of going c4, honestly, because it kind of gives black the same opportunity to have a nice outpost on d4. So after playing knight d5 and black plays d6, consider playing moves like bishop c4. You are leaving this option of going c3 should black play knight d4. If black plays bishop e6, now you can go c3 and you are safe. You can see what I was talking about. It'll be pointless for them to take your knight, as they will remain with no play. Look at these gaps. Bishop e7, you have queen b3, and one pawn is going to die in this position. So bishop takes d5 won't be a great option for black. You know, after you play c3, maybe they should try something like bishop e7. If that happens, you just continue with your other plan, pawn to d3. If they castle short, you can also do the same. If s6, you can even go pawn to a4, then hide your bishop. If they attack your light squad bishop right away, you can even start your pawn storm on this side of the board. See, they can't play queen b3 check. If knight takes, this only helps you to strengthen your center. Look at this. If pawn takes, you activate your dark squad bishop. Imagine playing like this in a tournament. And by the way, I deliberately turned on the eval bar to show you that this is not a dubious opening. You can see that Stockfish favors white almost all the time. So this idea of knight f4 is not really dubious after all. Again, after e4 and c5, if you just want to surprise your opponent, you can go knight e2. It's not much of a stretch. After knight c6, the top played move, you put your knight on f4. I said the idea is to provoke pawn to e5 or g5. One more time, if black plays e5, you know what to do. You go knight d5. And if they play knight f6 or something similar, you don't want to go c4, even though that's playable. Like I said, you just don't want to allow this knight outpost later in the game. You want to go knight bc3. I understand it's not every time you're going to see black simplifying your life like that. They play moves like pawn to d6. That's the top played move. If they don't take your knight, take their knight. After queen takes, you can even attack their queen, forcing them to undevelop their queen. In this position, I find bishop c4 to be more trickier. Just inviting bishop e6 and simplifying the game, you know. And instead of playing pawn to c4, this is when I pave the way for my dark squared bishop, indirectly allowing this trade to happen so that I put my d pawn on c4, over controlling the d5 square. Do they have knight d4? Nope. We can simply castle short, and after something like bishop e7, we then attack their queen and win the rook on a8. Because we did not push our c pawn, we have a chance to go c3 on the next move to push that knight away. So this is another way of playing this unique opening, guys. But again, after knight takes and queen takes f6, instead of bishop c4, you can play knight d5. Most of the times black is gonna go back because they don't want to lose their rook. Even though they can play queen h4, but that's more of a computer move. It is in these kinds of positions where you want to play bishop c4, you know, after putting your knight on d5. You see, I'll keep on saying this, c4 looks attractive, but it only allows black to have a nice outpost on d4. So it is the bishop that you want to put on c4 and your c pawn on c3. Then play this in the style of the gioco pianissimo with d3, paving the way for your dark squad bishop. So I would consider playing bishop c4. Again, you will always see bishop e6. There are no direct tricks in this position. Just go c3 or d3, it doesn't really matter. d3, for example, you'll be happy to take with your last squad bishop if that happens. If knight f5 again, you are happy to play c3 or something similar. Because as we saw earlier, this trade only favors white. If bishop takes later on, up to you to take with the queen, but even better with a pawn, gaining more central space. In this position, black can't even rush with c4, stopping you to go c4 yourself due to queen f4 check. and you're going to win that. If they play pawn to b5, just an example, you can just go a4 in this position. I mean, what are we doing? a6. You change your strategy, queen g4. There's also this idea of playing queen g4, stopping black from developing their bishop, because you're gonna take. So you can see this one variation changes the face of the Sicilian defense. Let me know what you think in the comment section about this and what name we should give it. I propose Kaspar's Keres variation. Alright, e4, c5, knight e2, and knight c6. What if we play knight f4, then black doesn't play e5, no g5, and let's say they just continue with their French Sicilian style, boring stuff? Well, this is still solid, but again, we don't want to go c4 even though that's playable. After pawn to e6, there are two decent continuations I want to recommend. The best is to go pawn to g3. My other alternative is to go c3 and put your queen on c2, creating some kind of the rat defense pawn structure. Let's begin with my recommendation, pawn to c3. When you play this, be rest assured black is gonna go knight f6, attacking your pawn on e4. So your plan is to go queen c2, defending that pawn. Should they ever play pawn to d5, you just go pawn to d3. So that if they ever take on e4, you can simply recapture like that and maintain your pawn structure. Later on, you will develop your bishop on b5, take like that, and life goes on. Once again, pawn to g5 will be a pawn extension. In fact, if this happens, even though you don't have knight h5 this time, you can even play moves like knight h3 and even knight e2 in this position, even better, because you plan to put that knight on g3 later on. Not to mention that this pawn is pinned, so they have to protect it somehow. Then you go knight g3. Or if they play pawn to g4, you take advantage of that by developing your dark squared bishop. You might even castle long if you want. But again, after pawn to d3, you won't see a lot of people simplifying your position like that. They play moves like g6 or bishop e7, but this is when you can go bishop e2, continue playing normally, and after castle shot, you might even do the same, put your rook on d1 to face the queen, and maybe play this in the style of the Gioco Pianissimo, or in the style of the rat. With bishop e2, at least you are assured of playing knight h5 should black play g5. Another way of handling the French Sicilian in this variation is to go pawn to g3 right away, because at least you know if knight f6 comes attacking your pawn on e4, you can simply defend it with your bishop on g2. Again, it won't make sense for black to attack your knight this way since you have knight h5, and this only returns the advantage. So g5 is not a good move. If d5 is played, you can just oversimplify the position by taking and castling on the next move. You have rook e1 check. Your position is opened, and this doesn't even look like the Sicilian defense. You have symmetrical pawn structure. Black may choose to copy you, but this is too late due to knight c3. You are ahead in terms of development. Look at where your knights are facing. Plus this, if pawn to d4 is played, you can go knight cd5, or first rook check, bishop e7, then knight cd5. Black is in trouble. Again, in the knight f4 line, if black doesn't play e5 or e6, and let's say they play d6, this even gives you more time to do what you want. E.g., you can go the Alpine way or the Fianchetto way with your knight on f4, or the bishop c4 way against the d6 line. With this line, what I love doing is sacrificing my pawn on e4. Instead of defending that with d3 or knight c3, I just go on and castle like in the Ginsburg Gambit. Point is, after knight takes, I'll still be able to get back that piece after king takes, queen h5 check, g6, and queen d5 check. Stockfish doesn't like this, but at human level, these are positions that are very difficult for them to handle. You see, humans are not very good defenders. But after pawn to d6, the easiest is to play pawn to d3 and continue in the rat defense way. Your knight on f4 just serves as a hook to provoke pawn to e5 so that you can go knight e5. So you just leave your knight on f4 for good, like that, until black plays pawn to e5. That's the point. So in this case, after bishop c4 and knight f6, you don't really have to give up your pawn on e4 if you don't have to. You have d3 in this position, and these are positions where you will see black playing pawn to e5. That makes sense. You go knight d5 or even knight h5, all up to your plan. Bishop e6, knight b c3. Again, we are back to whatever we looked at. Let me know if you would love to see me testing out this variation against real people, because I love doing that. Now check this out, you guys. If you want to learn more about these kinds of tricks or similar opening ideas like the ones I just shared, you can watch this video that has popped up on the top left. Another video that I highly recommend you check out to skyrocket your rating is this one that has popped up on the top right. But if you love gambit videos, you can check out the video that has popped up on the bottom left. And if you are a lover of chess traps like myself, feel free to click on the video that has popped up on the bottom right.